Okay, the big Diablo 4 launch day is finally here, and with that, so does starting your leveling journey. Today, we're bringing you the most broken leveling builds that were tested throughout all 3 beta weekends to give you the smoothest journey into the endgame. And as a treat for the Diablo launch finally arriving, if this video reaches 100,000 views by the early access release date, I will be doing an additional Diablo 4 game copy giveaway, bringing the total up to 2 additional giveaways to the pool right before launch day. Now, before we kick off the video, a quick word from our sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by the Wonder AI app, which turns your words into digital art, and with the Wonder, the possibilities are truly endless. Download and try the app with a free trial using my link. Now, whether you're a blogger, an influencer, or just someone who likes to be creative, this app makes it incredibly easy to turn what you want into amazing digital art. All you need to do is enter a prompt, select an art style, and sit back and watch as Wonder brings your ideas to life in seconds. For example, I want creative art of Inarius from Diablo 4 in hell fighting demons. And bam, in a matter of seconds, we have it created and I can save it directly on my phone to do whatever I want with it. How about a Diablo 4 themed rogue holding up 2 daggers wearing a dark mask in a hyper-realistic format? Boom! Wonder can even make that happen too. My favorite aspect is I can even discover artworks that are the best in the community right now, and I can screenshot the pictures and use them however I'd like to give myself a limitless selection to choose from. I've been using this app constantly over the last few weeks to give me high-resolution images to use for my Diablo 4 thumbnails, and it's been helping me tremendously on the channel. Whether you need to bring an idea to life, create some amazing artwork, or even if you're struggling to get inspiration, you could truly create one-of-a-kind amazing art in a matter of seconds with this app. Download and try the app with a free trial using my link to get a free premium version of Wonder, which brings you no ads, faster art generation, unlimited art, and 50% off on your own AI avatar. Okay, now heading right into the best leveling builds for Diablo 4's launch, we have the Barbarian. Starting off with my favorite variations of builds for the Barbarian is going to be the Bleed Barbarian. The first Bleed variation is going to be based off of Flay as well as Rend. These 2 abilities on their own deal great area of effect damage, and they absolutely chunk bosses as well as elites' health bars over a short period of time. The reason why I love this build in particular so much is that the basic and core abilities have so much damage baked into them. You can run defensive and utility-based abilities throughout the rest of your kit and be just fine in the damage department. What makes the Barbarian so strong is their incredible defensives and shout abilities, and if you could run a build that allows you to play based around this concept, you're going to have a very successful Barbarian build. So the most basic and effective build you can find with the Barbarian that is very straightforward is you're going to be running your Rend and Flay, as well as grabbing all the shouts possible. There are also skills and passives along your tree that heal you per shout you have activated. And this also stacks, so if you have 3 shouts active with 3% healing per shout activated, that's 9% healing per second for anywhere between 8 to 10 seconds, which is pretty much your entire health bar. Your next variation is going to be using Frenzy as well as Whirlwind, because Whirlwind got significant buffs over the last patch when it comes to damage. Now, this build deals significant damage to elites and minion monsters, but it does struggle a bit with boss encounters, so grabbing an ultimate ability for your pure damage is definitely going to be the way to go here. Overall, though, both of these builds are very straightforward, easy, and are definitely outperforming everything else when it comes to the Barbarian as of right now. Next up, you have the Shouts and Thorns build. Now, this isn't going to be the most fun build out there, but boy, is it effective if you get it down right. The build focuses on grabbing Thorns talents all over your tree and souping the amount of reflected damage you deal to its absolute maximum. Then you grab all the utility abilities to empower yourself to be able to take those hits, taunt the enemies to attack you, and you'll be reflecting all of that damage back. The biggest benefit is that you'll also be buffing all of your teammates and being the ultimate support and tank class. We highly recommend taking Flay as well as Rend or Whirlwind and just simply amplifying your bleed effects as much as you can while sticking to dozens of demons to reflect as much damage as you can. This build in particular can struggle a little bit on epic boss encounters, but your clear speed with minions and elite bosses is going to be incredibly fast, and all in all, it's a very straightforward Barbarian build that reflects a ton of damage and is super beefy, great for anyone just starting out Diablo. Starting off, we have the Shapeshifting builds. After leveling the Druid countless times over all 3 beta weekends, by far the easiest and some of the most effective builds are going to be your very basic Werebear as well as Werewolf builds. If your primary focus is Werebear, your overall damage might be a bit lower than the other classes, but it definitely makes up for it by being practically unkillable. No matter what the encounter is, you are very tanky if you're running a werebear build setup, and most of your damage is going to be coming from your overpowered pulverizes, which is absolutely going to plow through most mobs for you. And to make up damage when your pulverize isn't being overpowered, you're going to have a couple companion skills like the Poison Creeper and the Wolves to back you up. The same concept goes for the werewolf build, but instead of being nearly unkillable, you are going to have way more damage with this setup. You have loads of damage from your core skill Shred, as well as having multiple companion skills and rabies to spread poison across enemies and to be able to deal immense single target pressure to bosses. You will be tanky with debilitating Roar, and your werewolf self-healing is going to be great, as well as having legendary aspects down the line to keep you up and running. Either way, both of these builds are very straightforward and incredibly effective for leveling and can definitely be used no matter what stage of the game you are in. Moving along now to the companion-based builds. And the first beta weekend, companions were absolutely awful all around for the Druid. Blizzard noticed, and these abilities got significant buffs, increasing damage all across the board for all of them. This finally allows you to play a companion-based build on a Druid, and it was my favorite choice in the final testing beta. It was incredibly effective in the damage department, and the best thing about this build is that your basic and core skills can be pretty much whatever skills you would actually prefer them to be. Because the highlight of this build is going to be your companions, there are tons of abilities and skills along the tree to increase your companion damage, so you have a very high flexibility in your other 3 skills. I do recommend at least picking up a defensive ability to at least help with the survivability of your character overall. All in all though, if you get some legendary aspects for your wolves, as well as get deep enough into the Druid class mechanic, I see this build absolutely stomping most content and allowing you to move very quickly through leveling in the mid to late game. You have your Poison Creeper to root enemies, your Ravens to make them all vulnerable, and then your Wolves to deal the knockout blow in single target encounters. If you like nature and animals, and you're looking for a companion-based build, this can definitely be a good mix-up if you don't want to play the Necromancer. Now, firstly, starting off with the straightforward and very effective Summoner Necromancer build. This build is all about being the true minion master the Necromancer is. The whole idea is to have as many minions as you possibly can have active, and then amplifying their damage and effectiveness as much as you can, while debuffing the enemy to increase their damage even more. The caster range DPS summoner focuses on grabbing Decompose, as well as Blight to cast shadow damage over time effects, as well as amplifying your minion damage with these abilities as well. From there, you grab passive talents on your skill tree that makes your darkness skills amplify your minion damage even more, as well as stunning enemies and bringing you bonuses that really help shadow damage over time effects. Now, if you'd rather focus on being more up close and personal with summoning minions, there's definitely an option for that as well. You focus on grabbing Reap as well as Sever or even Blood Search to deal some amazing area of effect damage with it being paired with Overpower. You can also grab Thorns in your talent tree to make you and your minions reflect damage, as well as increase your damage reduction while you are nearby your minions, being the ultimate Dark Leader that is up close and personal. This build really gives you that Death Knight feel if you've ever played World of Warcraft, and it brings such an awesome class fantasy. Next up, we have the Bone Necromancer. This build was solid through all beta testing weekends, and is a fantastic choice for a ranged DPS Necromancer build. You have amazing single target damage with Bone Splinters and Bone Spear, great piercing and AoE damage with Bone Spear and Corpse Explosion, and some good survivability with Bone Storm's damage reduction, as well as having Blood Mist and your minions to soak up some damage. All around, this build is a very solid choice, and the only thing it does lack is some utility. But I have heard some wise people say, why would I need utility when everything around me is already dead? Well, this build kind of follows that formula. There are also different variations where you can run Bone Spirit as well. You know, toss out those Bone Spirits that can absolutely destroy elites and bosses if you have enough skill points to upgrade and fully utilize that build. This is one of the more higher performing builds in the game as of right now, and is going to have a very consistent and smooth playthrough as you're completing the main story. Starting things off with the Frost Sorcerer. This was a spec that honestly surprised a ton of people in the Server Slam weekend, including myself. The patch right before the testing weekend stated that Ice Shards, which is the Frost Sorcerer's main source of damage, got buffed significantly from having a 15% chance to ricochet to targets all the way up to 40% chance, and it's a massive difference. The build's primary focus is taking mostly frost-based skills on your talent tree, chilling and freezing enemies, and just completely wiping the screen clean of them with your Ice Shards, turning into an area of effect ability with its enchantment passive. If you don't know, the enchantment passive for Ice Shards shoots out Ice Shards automatically for every enemy that is frozen. Combine that with the increased ricochet chance, You have an ability that can deal immense single target damage as well as area of effect damage, allowing you incredible versatility in your build for abilities that are for, either defensive or bringing additional utility. You also have one of the strongest ultimates in the game with Deep Freeze, giving you the ability to pretty much wipe your slate clean no matter what situation you're in, making you invulnerable for a short duration, as well as freezing enemies the second you come out of Deep Freeze to then destroy them all over again with your ice shards. The constant amount of slows and freezes this class brings, as well as immense DPS and high mobility with teleport, makes it an obvious choice for being one of the best specializations heading into launch day. Moving along now to the Lightning Sorcerer. There are two different versions to build the Lightning Sorcerer, and the first is going to be your basic ranged build where you're running Spark and Chain Lightning, spawning as much crackling energy from afar as you can. And then what you would do is you would teleport in to collect all that crackling energy to deal massive damage. Recently, there was a nerf to Chain Lightning, however, it still remained strong as its damage was still really good. And the fact that it bounced automatically to other enemies made it an effective cast and forget AoE spell. Combining this with the Fireball enchantment passive, you can cast a couple Chain Lightnings and the entire room would be cleared up from enemies for the most part. Combining this with the Fireball enchantment passive, you can cast a couple Chain Lightnings and the entire room would be cleared up of enemies, bringing you incredible AoE damage. On the other side, you have Arc Lash as well as Charge Bolts, being used together in a build as almost like a melee type of build. This is going to be your up-close and personal Sorcerer build, using Charge Bolts almost as like a shotgun-like ability to deal massive AoE damage up close and stunning enemies with Arc Lash. We do recommend grabbing a couple defensive skills if you are going to run this build, as the Sorcerer is an incredibly fragile class. This build in particular is going to perform a lot better later on in the game when you get a lot more passives and legendaries to increase your survivability, as well as increasing your damage to enemies that are closer to you in general. All in all, the Lightning Sorcerer is engaging, fun, and thrives in killing rooms full of enemies in just a matter of a few seconds. The Melee Rogue in particular is an incredibly flashy class. So satisfying whether you blow up the room with Shadow Imbuement or just crush elites and bosses with Flurry. Now, there were some concerns overall about its survivability, but the 3% heal per critical strike paired with Flurry, Dark Shroud, and your natural dodge made you a lot more tanky than anticipated. There are generally two routes you want to go with the Melee Rogue, either a high mobility rogue with great AoE damage with a Twisting Blade build, or an absolute boss shredder with Flurry. Either way, the rate at which this class flies through dungeons is really just uncomparable. It is a bit difficult to get used to with all the movement and setting up tactical gameplay, but overall, it's incredibly rewarding. The big concern is their real lack of group utility though as a melee rogue. Even compared to the Ranger, it's quite a big difference which might cause issues in the endgame. There are some great poison and death trap combos to help set up some big AoE burst windows for your team, but overall the group support is severely lacking other than Smoke Bomb, which would force your team into a melee cleave situation. Moving on to the Range Rogue, it is really in a fantastic spot overall. Intense burst to just clear out a room in seconds with Barrage or Pen Shot paired with Shadow Imbuement. And for more of those single target encounters, you have Rapid Fire and Poison Imbuement paired with your immense natural mobility makes you a perfect range DPS for boss encounters. Rather than the Melee Rogue, the Ranger typically has some great group utility with having 2 charges of Caltrips to amplify your damage and chill your targets, triple Imbuement Rain of Arrows to literally wipe a screen clean if you need to, and you can just pretty much add about anything the Melee Rogue does, just a slight step ahead. Overall, Melee is going to struggle a lot in DPS on bosses compared to Range in Diablo 4, due to Range having an easier time on prepping things and dodging mechanics a lot easier, rather than Melee being usually forced to get hit by some things. The biggest issue with Range Rogue is that it is quite gear and level reliant to even start to feel powerful. It's very dependent on vulnerabilities, attack speed, and critical strikes, which really aren't that easy to come by on a random account. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up this video. Just a quick reminder that if this video gets 100,000 views by the early access release date, I will be doing an additional Diablo 4 game copy giveaway live on stream. So please be sure to like the video because it helps a lot more than you guys know. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, to check the link in the description below for the Wonder AI app. They did sponsor this video, and that is directly supporting the channel. So go ahead and show some love if you want. Don't forget, we also have a Diablo 4 Discord server that you can join with over 1,000 active members. So if you're looking for friends, gaming buddies, or just a really friendly, fun community, please be sure to click on the link in the description below. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. My name is Sky from the Comeback Kids. I will see you all in the next one. Peace.